Chapter 1, verse 7.
The path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor.
This verse also indicates that the real favor of Allah, the Exalted, is only obtained when one sincerely obeys Him. This involves using the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Him. Real favor is therefore not determined by the amount of worldly blessings one obtains. Failing to understand this reality can lead to misguidance. Greatness and true success is not connected to worldly things such as wealth or fame. A person may obtain some worldly success through these things, but it is quite obvious if one turns the pages of history that this type of success is very temporary and it eventually becomes a burden and regret for a person. A Muslim should never believe that superiority lies in these things, thereby dedicating themselves to obtaining them while neglecting their duties to Allah, the Exalted, and the creation. Nor should they look down at others who do not possess these worldly things, believing they have no value or significance, as this attitude contradicts the teachings of Islam. In fact, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, has advised in a hadith found in Sahih Baqarah, number 6071, that the people of paradise are those who are considered insignificant by society, and concluded that if they took an oath on something, Allah, the Exalted, would fulfill it for them. True honor, success and greatness in this world and the next only lies in piety. So the more one sincerely strives to fulfill the commands of Allah, the Exalted, refrain from His prohibitions and faces destiny with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, the greater they are, even if they appear insignificant to society. Chapter 49, Al-Hujurat, verse 13.
Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you.
A Muslim should therefore search for true success in this and not waste their time and efforts in searching for it in worldly things, otherwise they may well reach the hereafter a great loser. Chapter 18, Al-Kahf, verses 103 to 104.
Say, shall we, believers, inform you of the greatest losers as to their deeds? They are those whose effort is lost in worldly life, while they think that they are doing well in work.
Chapter 1, verse 7.
The path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor.
This verse also indicates that the real favor of Allah, the Exalted, is only obtained when one sincerely obeys Him. This involves using the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Him. Real favor is therefore not determined by the amount of worldly blessings one obtains. Failing to understand this reality can lead to misguidance. In a hadith found in Jami at-Tirmidhi, number 2322, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, advised that everything in this material world is cursed except the remembrance of Allah, the Exalted, what is connected to it, the knowledgeable person and the student of knowledge. The remembrance of Allah, the Exalted, encompasses all the levels of remembrance. Namely, internal silent remembrance, which includes correcting one's intention so that they only act for the sake of Allah, the Exalted. Remembering Allah, the Exalted, via the tongue, and the most important is practically remembering Allah, the Exalted, by fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions, and by facing destiny with patience. Anything which leads to the remembrance of Allah, the Exalted, includes the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, such as striving in the material world in order to fulfill one's necessities and the necessities of their dependents according to the teachings of Islam without waste, excessiveness or extravagance. In reality, this includes any action which appears worldly or religious as long as it involves the obedience of Allah, the Exalted. Both the knowledgeable person and the student of knowledge are the only people in reality who will obey Allah, the Exalted, correctly, as this is not possible to achieve without knowledge. An ignorant person disobeys Allah, the Exalted, without even realizing it, as they are unaware of what counts as a sin or a righteous deed. In some cases, one may even believe they are strictly obeying Him even though they are far from it. To conclude, in reality nothing is really cursed in the material world in itself. It is how a thing is used which determines if it is cursed or not. For example, if wealth is used correctly according to the teachings of Islam, then it is a great blessing in both worlds. But if it is misused or hoarded, then it will become a curse for its owner in both worlds. This can be applied to all things in this world. Chapter 1, verse 7.
The path of those upon whom you have bestowed favor.
This verse also indicates that the real favor of Allah, the Exalted, is only obtained when one sincerely obeys Him. This involves using the blessings one has been granted in ways pleasing to Him. Real favor is therefore not determined by the amount of worldly blessings one obtains. Failing to understand this reality can lead to misguidance. It is important for Muslims to understand that they should not define a situation as good or bad according to worldly definitions. For example, according to a worldly definition, being wealthy is good whereas being poor is bad. Instead, Muslims should ascribe good and bad to events and things according to the teachings of Islam. Meaning, anything which takes one closer to the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, in the form of fulfilling His commands, refraining from His prohibitions and by facing destiny with patience, is good even if it is seen as bad from a worldly point of view. And anything which takes one away from the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, is bad even if it appears good. There are many examples throughout the teachings of Islam which demonstrate this. For example, Qarun was an extremely wealthy person who lived in the time of the Holy Prophet Musa, peace be upon him. Many people then and now may consider his wealth to be a good thing, but as it led him to pride, it became a means of his destruction. So in his case, being wealthy was a bad thing. Chapter 28 Al-Qasas, verses 79 to 81.
So he came out before his people in his adornment. Those who desired the worldly life said, "Oh, would that we had like what was given to Qa with Macron. Indeed, he is one of great fortune." But those who had been given knowledge said, "Woe to you! The reward of Allah is better for he who believes and does righteousness. And none are granted it except the patient. And we caused the earth to swallow him and his home. And there was for him no company to aid him other than Allah, nor was he of those who could defend themselves."
On the other hand, the third rightly guided Caliph of Islam, Uthman bin Affan, may Allah be pleased with him, was also wealthy, yet he used his wealth in the correct way. In fact, once after donating a large amount of wealth, he was told by the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that nothing could harm his faith after that day. This has been indicated in a hadith found in Jami at-Tirmidhi, number 3701. So in his case, wealth was a good thing. To conclude, a Muslim should remember that every difficulty they face has wisdoms behind it, even if they do not observe them. So they should not believe something is good or bad from a worldly point of view. Meaning, if the thing encourages them towards the obedience of Allah, the Exalted, then it is good even if it looks bad. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 216.
But perhaps you hate a thing and it is good for you, and perhaps you love a thing and it is bad for you. And Allah knows, while you know not.
Over 400 free eBooks, audiobooks, infographics, podcasts and blogs available on our website, www.shaykhpod.com.